We are broadcasting live.
Yes, good morning, everyone. This is the council meeting for the town of Mono, held on Tuesday, July 14th, 2026. This meeting is being conducted both in chambers and by means of electronic participation, as permitted by Section 238, subsection 3.1 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, and the Town of Mono's Procedural Bylaw 2020-42. Residents can follow the meeting in real time or later on through the YouTube channel link on our website. I do see that we have a quorum. Just a reminder, the emergency exits are in the rear of the council chamber. Members are free to declare pecuniary interest at this point or at any point in the course of the meeting, followed up in writing to the clerk. And I'll begin with the Indigenous land acknowledgement. We would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the town of Mono resides within the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Teotante, Adawadaron, and Hanashani's and Anishinaabe peoples. We also acknowledge that the town of Mono resides within the treaty lands named under Treaty 18, the Nottawasaga Purchase of 1818. These traditional territories in which we live and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions. It is with this statement that we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with this land, its waterways and resources. I have a motion that Council approves the agenda of Session 12, 2026 is circulated. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Mantalo, seconded by Councillor Capes. Yes?
I don't know if this is an amendment to the agenda, but there's one other thing when we go in camera that I think we're going to discuss. Should we list that? That's
I think
legal matters.
We should for the record, yes.
So, Deputy Mayor Nix, are you speaking to what I'm going to bring up with respect to full throttle?
What?
Full throttle?
No.
The small engine repair?
No. There was another legal matter that I sent you an email about a week ago, and you said you'd discuss it on the in-camera portion of this meeting. It's not listed on the agenda that we're going to discuss legal matters.
Sorry, I'm behind on my emails, but would that be Shelburne District Fire Board?
Yes.
So I have a meeting scheduled tomorrow with the town solicitor. Nothing to report right now,
Okay.
but I can put an email together for council with respect to status of that.
That's fine. That's fine.
But your worship,
Yeah.
if we could, I'd like to add full throttle OLT discussion, legal advice to the in-camera session.
Okay, and when we get to that motion, we'll amend it accordingly.
Okay.
Okay.
Doing that motion now.
No, it's when we get to the specific motion to go in camera, we'll specifically mention that we're talking about a legal matter. So any opposed to the motion as it is, mindful that it's going to be inclusive of the other matter? Seeing no opposition, I have a motion that council approves the minutes of session 11, 2026 is circulated. Moved by Deputy Mayor Nix, seconded by Elaine Capes. Any issues with this circulation of minutes? Seeing none, motion carries. I have no proclamations today. Public question period. Do we have any submitted online?
We have one question, Your Worship, that was submitted online. This comes from Mr. Monroe, who asked Council regarding a meeting on May 12th, where he asked a question of Council during question period about anti-Semitism and Council's response to it. He has requested that Council consider amending the minutes of that meeting because the minutes state anti-racism as opposed to anti-Semitism. And when viewing the video from that meeting, because I wasn't in attendance, both subjects were spoken about, but his initial question did pertain to anti-Semitism.
Well, that's my recollection. I mean, both topics were addressed by him ultimately, and by us ultimately. What's the wish of council?
I'm still not quite sure I understand what Bill is complaining about. The minutes don't reflect
I think he's,
Maybe Mike can explain.
Your worship, so I prepared the minutes for that meeting, and I have actually spoken to Mr. Monroe on this regard. But in the minutes, I did state anti-racism as the body of his question, when indeed it was anti-Semitism. So it's a matter of clarity on behalf of Mr. Monroe that he's asking council of.
any problems with amending the minutes to reflect anti-Semitism?
So what I recommend, your worship, is that I will bring those minutes back to the next meeting for council to move a resolution to amend the minutes.
Okay, let's proceed that way then. Okay. We have two delegations today. The first one pertains to 2025 financial. Sorry?
Were there questions?
Oh, yes. I'm rushing ahead. Any questions from the gallery today? Yes, come on forward. Thank you. Absolutely, and if you could engage the button on the microphone, that would be terrific.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Joanna Amaral. I am a resident of Mono. And I'm here regarding the ongoing leak from a neighboring pool, which has existed since January. Since reporting this issue, I've repeatedly contacted the town seeking assistance. Throughout this process, I received conflicting information from different departments, making it difficult to understand what actions were actually being taken. Eventually, the town acknowledged that the property requires reassessment by an engineer, and the mayor also confirmed that there would be a site inspection. Despite those commitments, I have received no meaningful updates, and my attempts to follow up have gone unanswered. I'm not here to assign blame. I'm here because I'm asking the town to follow through with their commitments it has already made. I would like to know when the engineering reassessment will occur, when the site visit by the mayor will take place, as well as a committed date and time as to when this will be followed through with. While this issue affects my property, it also raises a broader concern. When a resident reports a potentially significant issue, they should be able to expect clear communication, consistent information, and follow through on commitments made by the town. The way this matter has been handled could happen to any resident, and I believe everyone deserves confidence that their concerns will be investigated properly. I respectfully ask that the town provide a clear timeline for the engineering reassessment and any remaining inspections, identify the person or department responsible for this file, and provide those next steps in writing, please.
Just before I turn it over to Mike, nice to meet you in person.
You as well.
And just to clarify, I think I did commit to a site visit, but I also indicated that I wanted to have the benefit of some staff information and input before I went out, because I am not a trained in the kind of engineering that is involved here. The second thing, and I will turn it over to Mike, is that this, to be clear, is I wouldn't say it's a neighbor dispute, but it's a grading issue between you and your neighbor who has a pool that allegedly leaks or is being drained periodically, and the water's coming onto your property. Have I characterized that correctly?
Yes, so the pool is no longer leaking. What's happened is there's basically a dividend that's been created due to the ongoing damage since January from the pool. The pool, like I mentioned, is empty at this point. So what's happening is every time that there is a rain, we have a rain, or if there's, as I'm sure you've seen the weather, when there is substantial rain, what's happening is because of the runoffs, it's continuing to run onto our property, as well as the fact that I did email the town with a sort of new concern, which is that outside of the weather patterns or the rain, it appears that the neighbors' sprinkler systems are now leaking. So we have constant, I wouldn't say flooding at this point. That happens when when we have rainfall. It just seems that there is a consistent saturation of our property, as well as the area around our fence. and we do not communicate with the neighbor because we've attempted that multiple times, so the neighbor doesn't even speak to us. So I think what's happening is, and this is again just with communication I've had with Mike, something that was reassessed, that was looked at, and the last communication was that there was going to be somebody coming out to inspect the property because, from what I understand, is there seems to be definitely a change in the property. So I have emailed and asked for an update, and that was about, I'm going to say we're going on to our third week, and I have not heard anything back.
In fairness,
And not to you, sir.
oh no, I'm aware of that. But
Yes.
in fairness, Mike has been away on vacation for some of that period of time. Mike, can you help us here?
I sure can. Joanna, we've had a good volley of emails since March or since I sort of got stepped into the file. As I apologize to Deputy Mayor Nix for missing emails, I am behind. But what I do know, and I believe you are aware of this, is that I did do a site visit with the engineer, but we decided that we needed to get into the neighbor's property. So we're currently organizing access to their rear yard. So that's a status update on that, and I can pull your email and give you that in writing. That's no problem. The town has just become aware of the leak with respect to the water department. And we're dealing with the individual the way that we would with all water leaks. So with respect to that, I need to find out if we've heard from the neighbor for access to their property yet. And once I do have that, I will give you what you're asking for in writing. To get out there and take a look at, and we have reviewed the documents and everything that you submitted from your engineer that you had, and it's just a matter of unfortunate timing for my schedule, and I apologize for that, but I will continue. I am continuing to be on the file for you.
I appreciate
and
that. I
will.
just needed an update and some timing on it so that
Yep, no, I appreciate that.
Ralph and then Fred.
Thanks for bringing this to our attention. Just for my clarification, when the pool is empty and then it rains, how is the water getting into your place? Is it going into the pool and then leaking out again?
So it's very interesting that you asked this question because the neighbor actually took the pool down approximately 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So it's an above-ground pool, just to clarify that. I think that everybody just assumes that it's an in-ground pool, but it's an above-ground pool, so that makes things a little bit different. So there's a liner in the pool. So what happened was initially when, I think in January when the leak started, the liner was in the pool and it kind of held all the water, and as the water started to drain over the months, the liner was, I think, either slowly being pulled off, or I think he cut it. And then once the entire pool drained, and I think I mentioned it was something like 50,000 gallons of water that just continuously drained onto our property, he cut the pool down, but he cut the liner down, but as he cut it down, he just left it. So what would happen is it was like a pocket. So think about it like when you're in a tub and you have a clogged drain. And so every time it rained, this liner would collect the water, and there was a few days when we had substantial rain, torrential downpours, I would actually almost call it. And so what would happen is, as you would have a clog in the tub, and this is again referencing my husband who's a plumber, so he is best friends with water, and we just noticed that this liner would hold the water and then slowly continue to drain onto our property. So not only were we contesting with, this torrential downpour, which is what was happening through now the problem that we have between the properties, but then slowly the leak would continuously, basically drain from that liner until there was no more water in the liner. When he removed the pool 2 weeks ago, and it has been raining, we're not getting flooding now from the pool, which kind of I guess, verifies or confirms our findings. However, now the next issue that we've noticed is that rain or shine, because he runs the sprinklers all the time, again, it's saturated because he has a sprinkler system, which we're assuming might be faulty. On top of that, and it's just a little bit of, it's ironic because we're constantly having water issues with our neighbor. One day, without the sprinklers even being run, without the pool being an issue, he accidentally ran a hose for 24 hours onto our property. And so, my husband walked over, knocked on the door and said, our entire property saturated. Oh, I accidentally turned the hose on. So it just seems to be when it comes in threes, we've got constantly this problem with a neighbor and all of his water, and of course the rundowns coming onto our property. We're dealing with insurance now. We do want to be able to, start replacing things. However, there just seems to be, it's like a wet noodle. Every time we're trying to do something, there seems to be constant water damage from that property that's adjacent to us. And so now the pool has been taken down. So I feel like we do have now less flooding than we did before. But again, now we're contending with this problem with his sprinklers.
Thank you.
Of course.
Fred?
Is that it?
I didn't.
Nope, sorry, I apologize.
The address. Where do you live?
Do I give you my full address? Is that how?
I'd like to know which subdivision you're in.
Benson, so I'm on Benson in the Fieldstone.
Yes.
Then, Mike, when that subdivision was built, there would have been a grading plan even if you didn't have a pool, my suspicion is this type of drainage from one property to another should not happen if the grading plan was followed, right? So I'm wondering if there's been a violation of, well, I don't know how the flooding could occur if the house was built according to the grading plan when that subdivision went in.
So the lot grading for all the lots in the vicinity were approved by the developer and certified by the town engineer, but that is at grass stage. Generally, there might be the possibility that somebody hasn't even moved in yet. So you take a pool installation or rear yard works or grading, that there's a lot of things that change after engineering certification. And that's the reason I want to get into both properties to see if it is a modification that has a resolution to ensure the water stays in the side yard swale. It's the way the houses are set up. It's a side yard on Benson that is fed by probably 2.5 lots. Their rear yards butt into. They perpendicular butt into the side yard, so they drain to the side yard swale that's in question right now.
So we're gonna follow up for you, and thank you for keeping this in front of us.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Any other questions? Any questions from online guests?
Yeah,
Val?
I do have a question.
Yeah, Val.
Okay, hi, it's Val, yes. There seemed to be an event occurring at the OAS Event Center on Saturday, and I do not believe there was a noise exemption that was provided. And I do know that it was disruptive to a few of us here, and just wondering what the follow-up would be for that. And then on top of that, I do believe that the noise bylaw is suggesting that the people around the event center or wherever the noise is going to be generated is notified via a letter so that they're aware of what's going on. To date, I have not received anything on any of the events that have been approved, and obviously the one that occurred on Saturday I was unaware of as well. So just wondering what the follow-up on that could be as well. Can we put in some further explanation as to how we identify the residents that could be impacted and ensure that they are notified of any noise that might be occurring at any event that's within the neighborhoods?
Thank you, Fred. Any thoughts?
An applicant who receives an exemption to the noise bylaw is required to provide notice to neighboring residents. The bylaw doesn't define how they provide that notice. An application that goes to council is considered public notice that an application was made. But if approved, then the organizer of the event has to take some action to inform neighbors. We have not received any noise complaints regarding the OAS this weekend. So by law enforcement has, of course, not responded because there's been no complaints. council's aware of the level of service with respect to bylaw enforcement. But if it was on a Saturday during midday, it's conceivable, because our bylaw officer was actually out working all day Saturday of this weekend. But he did not respond to any call for service at the OAS.
Linda?
That's interesting because Ms. Hogue and another resident have sent emails to council saying that they did make a online, so what's the turnaround for us receiving an online complaint? Because that was what we said has to happen, that if you're being disturbed, we have part-time, which, fortuitous that he was out, but he was working maybe on the weekend during the day, but this event was the after party for the Nashville Takes Over Orangeville thing that was all over social media. So it was an evening thing, so he probably wasn't still working. But we've told people that they're to make a complaint, and that our noise bylaw says that if there's more than one person, then that will trigger an investigation, which for noise is usually after the fact, because people are making noise at night, disturbing people usually, and we've got a part-time guy. So knowing that, how come you haven't seen anything yet?
I will have to follow up to confirm if I'm mistaken that a formal complaint was not received. I'm not aware of one, but if one was filed using our online system, then that is a formal complaint. At this stage, I'm not aware of a formal complaint being received. A complaint that goes directly to council, of course, doesn't come across my desk unless it's forwarded to me. So I wouldn't be aware of that.
Yeah, no, there were these two emails that we received said, I've made a complaint, I'm just letting you know.
Okay, I will have to follow up whether a formal complaint was received, because I did sit down with our bylaw officer yesterday, and that wasn't on the list of files that were received over the last week.
And to clarify, Fred, the neighborhood circulation occurs before or at the same time as a noise-making permit application is made to council, or afterwards if we've approved it? Is it one or the other?
So the requirement, public notice is of an application is by virtue of it being published on the agenda. So that's the town's responsibility. And if the permit or variance to the bylaw is issued, then it's the event organizer's requirement to inform. The bylaw just says inform.
With the exception of the CVC, nobody has done that to the best of my information. And that's what we're hearing from Val, is it's not happening. So I'm wondering whether, for another day, we consider that as part of the application to make noise, and I'm going to call it that from now on. It's not an exemption. It's actually an application to make noise. Prior to that being considered by council, maybe the circulation should occur so that we get the feedback of the neighborhood as we're considering whether to grant the application.
The bylaw isn't written that way as it's currently written. Doesn't mean it can't be rewritten.
That's what I mean.
But it's currently written that the notice of application is specifically by means of posting on an agenda for a meeting. And that the notice is given after the permit is issued. So I leave that in council's hands if they wish to amend the bylaw.
Okay.
Yeah, we spent so much time on this bylaw. I don't know whether amending the bylaw, but I do know that when we have people come for exemption and we give it, then we could be a bit more directive. Not that it's not written there already and that it's not all, but we could, and remember, you need to go and do this, right?
I'm not even certain it's a condition of the permit to make noise. That there be a local circulation.
Well, because it's in
Our
the
bylaw
bylaw.
may say
It is, but we could highlight and remind applicants more aggressively or more forcefully that one of the conditions is the issuance of notice.
Thank you, Val. I hope that illuminated the issue for you.
Yes, no, that's good. And again, it's just, again, awareness helps, because when you hear noise and you're not sure where it's coming from, and it's been all day long, it does get annoying. Whereas when you know it's exempted and it's going to happen, you can kind of prepare yourself. So I think visibility really helps. So will there be follow-up now? So we'll obviously see if they can look at the complaints, and what does happen now with the follow-up? So does it go to the OAS? Does it go to the people who are actually conducting the event?
Fred?
Our follow-up is with the OAS because they're the landowners,
Okay.
and the event organizer, if it's after the fact, is probably not on site still. But we do have authority over both the event organizer and the landowner. So it'd be up to bylaw enforcement if they felt that the violation warranted further action, legal action. It could be taken against either.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions out there? Seeing none, if I could just again compliment Fred on the quick action having to do with the trailer on Highway 9. It has finally been demolished and removed from the side of the road.
That's random.
I just wanted everyone to know how effective our bylaw people were on that. They received a complaint, they moved on it, and the individual leasing the property took the trailer down and removed it after years. Okay. So next item on the agenda is a presentation with regard to the financial statements and auditor's presentation. Come on forward, sir. And if you could introduce yourself and...
Yes. Hello, I'm Murray Short, partner at RLB LLP, the auditors for the town of Mono. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, for the opportunity to present the draft financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2025. In doing so, I'll walk through the PowerPoint presentation that was included in council package, I believe. I won't then separately walk through the financial statements because most of the primary statements are within the presentation itself, but if there are questions on the rest of the statements, I'm happy to answer them as well. So with that, if we could go to the next slide, please. Or do I have the opportunity to do that myself here?
You can do that.
You have the control.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so just a bit of an agenda. I'll talk about kind of an overview, a bit of a kind of synopsis of where we're at with the audit plan that was presented to council in a communication letter prior to the start of the audit. Talk about the audit report itself and the financial statements, as well as the graphs that we typically present, and then just talk about some next steps. So first off, in terms of audit overview, there were no significant changes from the audit plan that was presented in our pre-audit communication letter, which would have been received by council for information back in the fall. In that letter, we provide kind of a high-level synopsis of our audit plan in terms of kind of the procedures and so on that we intend to perform, and no significant changes from that. I do want to thank your treasurer and finance team for their good work getting us to this point and for their financial reporting throughout the year. We do list kind of some of the entries and things that we made just in a summarized form on this slide. Pretty standard things that we would come across and adjust for, basically to take your financial reporting from your system and culminate in the financial statements presented. So pretty standard entries made, and no significant internal controls to mention, no challenges dealing with management or anything that came up over the course of the audit. So thank you again to the finance team for that. Next slide just gives a couple of bullet points on our audit report. It is a 2-page audit report that's included at the start of the financial statements, but these 2 bullets basically cover the primary points that should be communicated today, which is a clean audit opinion under Canadian public sector accounting standards, and that our audit was conducted in accordance with Canadian auditing standards, which are the standards we're required to follow in doing audits of financial statements as licensed public accountants. The statement of financial position is the first statement immediately after the after the audit report. It highlights the assets, financial assets at the top, the non-financial assets at the bottom. In between them are the liabilities, and the net of those things is the overall accumulated surplus for the municipality. And so just jumping to that slide now, a few comments here. You can see cash position is increased by about $360,000. That's basically coming about because of an increase in your reserves and reserve funds in the year. We will talk about those in more detail. Taxes receivable, you can see, are up by about $250,000. That's pretty consistent with the increase in your tax revenue. So as a percentage basis, it's fairly consistent. We will have a slide on that as well. Investments increasing just because of investment income on the year. In terms of liabilities, accounts payable very consistent, so those are the kind of outstanding payables yet to be made at the end of the year. Basically higher regular payables this year than last, but lower deposits on hand, but on a net basis, very comparable. Deferred revenue is up by about $800,000. Those are your obligatory reserve funds, primarily your development charges, gas tax funding, and so on. All of those have increased. Basically, you received more into those reserve funds than what was spent in the year, and that's part of the reason for the increase in cash. The net of the financial assets and liabilities are the net financial assets. You can see on a net basis, they're down by about $400,000. That's coming about because the municipality did spend more on capital asset additions this year. So in any given year, your financial position may increase, but you may not spend as much on capital assets. This year, you spent a bit more on capital assets than in the prior year anyways, but your financial position then decreased correspondingly when you net out financial assets and liabilities. At the very bottom, you see the accumulated surplus, pretty comparable year over year, a bit of an increase that we'll see from a small surplus on the year, but overall very comparable. So just getting into some of the graphs, this graph shows your cash position relative to all of the cash outflows in the year, so all of the expenditures you make, any capital asset additions, operating costs, and so on. And if you take all of those cash outflows, you held about 86% of that in cash at the end of the year. That's pretty comparable to the average for other municipalities. The green line is your town. The blue line is the average of our other municipal clients. So it's 86% for the town of Mono versus 91% for the average for other municipalities. So pretty comparable from that standpoint. Taxes receivable for your municipality does tend to be somewhat higher than the average for other municipalities, but not by a huge amount. You can see it's about 2% higher at about 12.2. So as I mentioned, your tax receivable has increased, but as a percentage of your total tax revenues, it's remained pretty flat. I should mention that in this graph, we are comparing taxes receivable to all of the taxes collected by the municipality, so both for your own purposes as well as for the county and school boards. So 12.2% is a little higher than the average, and you can see on the right-hand side, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing would consider anything less than 10 to be low risk. I will say that most of our municipalities are kind of getting up into the 10s. Some of them are significantly higher than you are, so you're not kind of out of line by any means. And we have seen consistently over the last 5 years a fairly steady increase in taxes receivable across all of our municipal clients. So the fact that yours has been flat the last couple of years, I think, is a reasonable outcome, but it does tend to be somewhat higher than some of our other municipal clients. Tangible capital assets, so these are additions relative to total tax revenue. So we normalize for some of these graphs by comparing some of the amounts to total tax revenue for the municipality. Yours do tend to be a fair amount less. I will caution that I would caution against drawing too many conclusions from that. I'm not an engineer. I don't profess to say how much you should have spent on capital asset additions or what your needs are relative to other municipalities. So this might be a very kind of normal and expected and reasonable expenditure, but you do tend to spend less relative to your tax revenues than other municipalities do on capital asset additions. This graph, however, shows what you do spend relative to your budget and your amortization. We generally would like to see the blue bar, which is your actual spend on capital asset additions, a fair amount higher than the yellow bar, which is amortization, so the kind of wear and tear on your assets over time. And you can see that in 4 of the 5 years, the blue bar is higher than the yellow one, and a fair amount in a number of cases. So this may be an indication then, contrary to the conclusion that might have been drawn on the previous graph, that you are spending reasonably to maintain your infrastructure. But again, I'm not an engineer. I don't look forward in terms of what your needs are. I'm not an expert on your asset management plan. I just look at the numbers and try to draw some comparisons to other municipalities. So hopefully that's clear. Statement just after the statement of financial position is a statement of operation showing the revenues, expenses, annual surplus, and overall accumulated surplus as compared to the prior year as well as budget. And so just jumping to that statement here, you can see an increase in revenues of about $800,000, correspondingly an increase in expenses, actually about $1.2 million. And so you wind up with an $82,000 annual surplus, which is that slight increase in the accumulated surplus that we also saw on the statement of financial position. Couple of comments here. Taxation revenue up quite significantly, but most of that being budgeted. Bit of an increase above budget just because of supplemental taxes and so on. But we do see a significant increase up to about $11 million in tax revenue. Fees and user charges are down by about $900,000 and change. Most of that is because of the water main charge in 2024. Related to, it was the Highway 9 water main, I believe it was Highway 9. That was about 1.1 million, so that was kind of augmenting the 2024 numbers. Ontario grants up somewhat. Other income up as well. That's because of investment income as well as penalties and interest on taxes receivable. So as your tax receivable increase, you're getting more in terms of penalties and interest revenue from those. On the expense side, as I mentioned, up by about 1.2, a little less than that actually, about 1.15 million. Bit of an increase in general government related to some IT costs, tax write-offs, as well as a slight increase in staffing. In the protection services, we see an increase related to your fire contract primarily. In transportation services, because of the weather conditions in 2025, more spent on gravel and sand, as well as a bit of an increase in staffing. And then in the rec and cultural services, in planning and development, a bit of a decrease in staffing costs, but increase in contracted services. So those are some of the variances. Ultimately, you wind up with a surplus on the year of 82,000, increasing that accumulated surplus down at the bottom. So the next slide just shows the breakout of your expenditures by department. Not surprisingly, transportation services being the largest, your roads costs being more expensive than other costs that you incur in the year, but that's pretty consistent with most municipalities in the region. And this shows expenditures by department, so just a same thing, but over a 5-year comparison, and not too much additional to comment on here. Transportation services consistently being the largest, followed by protection and general government. So the statement of changes in net financial assets basically takes that annual surplus and backs out the activity related to your non-financial assets, your tangible capital assets most notably. And so it shows that about $400,000 decrease in net financial assets that I mentioned. So basically, you did have a small surplus, but because you spent more on capital asset additions than amortization, 2.24 million versus 1.81 or 1.82, that results in a decrease in your financial position because of those expenditures. And the statement of cash flows will show kind of a similar picture, but has a lot more detail. It's broken down into 3 primary sections. So operating activities is the general operations of the municipality. Capital activities is your investment in capital assets, your infrastructure purchases, and so on. And then your investing activities, which just shows the changes related to your investments. And so your operating activities generating positive cash of about 2.68 million. You can see that number about halfway down the page. As compared to 1.9 million. So strong cash flows coming from your operations. Of that, then you are purchasing capital assets of 2.25 million that decreases your cash, and a portion of the surplus is your net change in investments. And so on a net basis, your cash position actually increases. So it's because of liabilities that your net financial position did decrease somewhat. The schedule of accumulated surplus breaks out the $74.8 million overall accumulated surplus into various components, and we can see those here. So most of the $74.8 million is your investment in tangible capital assets. Not surprisingly, the municipality has invested over time significantly in its infrastructure. So that amount at the top, just under $67 million. The current fund at the end of the year at $895,000, so that's a slight increase in the year. And then at the bottom, we have the reserves and reserve funds. So reserve funds here exclude the obligatory reserve funds because they're a liability, because they're externally restricted by your Development Charges Act, gas tax agreement, and so on. So this is just reserve funds set aside by council in years past. And then reserves, which are discretionary and at the discretion of council. So the reserve funds here up slightly, reserves down somewhat because you did spend some of those in terms of the capital asset additions in the year. So deferred revenue then is those other reserve funds, the externally restricted ones or obligatory reserve funds, as well as some other smaller amounts in the other section we see here. But as mentioned, overall deferred revenue is up by about $870,000. You can see the increases in the development charges, recreational land, and federal gas tax lines. Basically, more received into those reserve funds in terms of contributions and investment income than were spent. You can see very little spent out of those reserve funds, other than the OSIF funding that you kind of spend as you go, generally speaking. So this graph shows your reserves and reserve funds in total. So combining what's in the accumulated surplus and the graph I just showed, the obligatory reserve funds that are a liability. And in this case, you can see the green line has decreased. This is as a percentage of total tax revenue. So I did say earlier that your reserves and reserve funds had increased, and that's why your cash was up. But relative to your tax revenues that have increased more significantly as a percentage, they have dropped somewhat relative to your tax revenue. And your reserves and reserve funds do tend to be lower. Again, I will caution that this isn't a judgment call on what you should have in those reserves and reserve funds. The town of Mono does not have any long-term debt. Some of our municipalities use debt to finance a lot of their capital asset acquisitions, their investments in their infrastructure. You haven't done so to this point, so that's part of the reason that your reserves and reserve funds would be lower. But again, I won't comment on what you should have in reserves or reserve funds because that's not my area of expertise. I will say that some of our municipalities do have a fair amount, significant amount more in debt than you have, and that would have been used to finance some of their infrastructure needs. So again, not a judgment call, just showing relative percentages here. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Can I just, I mean, Yeah, so, but there's a difference between 200 and 130. So we're lower, but if you were a municipality who had a bunch of debt, you should have a low reserve fund. Otherwise, you should be spending your own money. Why would you borrow money?
Yeah, so some municipalities choose to use debt. I mean, I'm speculating a little bit, but larger infrastructure projects just to kind of spread out the payments. So, a municipality that has to put in a big wastewater plant or something like that might use debt and then use the reserves and reserve funds to pay down the debt, or a combination of the reserves and reserve funds and their tax revenues and so on. I can say that 70% gap between your percentage and the average of other municipalities, that could very easily be made up by taxes. So some will have higher reserves and reserve funds, but still have higher debt as well. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So just in terms of next steps, subject to your...
No, later is fine. Later is fine.
Subject to your approval of the draft financial statements today, we will get our representation letter signed by management, which allows us to finalize the financial statements. What's presented here in draft, we can only sign our audit report once we have approval. And then that will allow us to kind of finalize the financial information return and submit it to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing on your behalf. And so happy to answer any more questions that council may have.
Ralph.
Thanks, Murray. Thanks, Murray. What are the cash equivalents?
So I don't have that information in front of me, but cash equivalents generally might be short-term investments that mature fairly shortly after year end. So they're basically, readily converted to cash shortly after the year end, but might be in short-term investments. I can't say for sure that the municipality had any at year end. I'm not sure whether
We have investments. I've forgotten the number, 7 million or something.
Yeah, there's separate investments in the assets that have longer maturities or that may not be readily converted to cash. Generally, cash equivalents might be things that are maturing within, say, 90 days of year end or something like that.
Okay. Why are we interested in cash equivalents as a percent of annual cash outflows? That must be of some significance, or you wouldn't be.
It's just a metric to show kind of the liquidity of the municipality, so that's why we present it. It kind of generally equates to, your cash position generally equates to your reserves and reserve funds, because you wouldn't have, 80 or 90% of your cash outflows sitting in cash if you didn't have to have a whole bunch of funds set aside in reserves and reserve funds, right? To maintain your operations, you wouldn't need that much. So it's just showing kind of the liquidity of the municipality relative to other municipalities.
Okay.
Fred?
Yeah, I had two questions, but you've already blown me out of the water because you don't want to make a judgment on our reserves as a percentage of our total taxes. I was going to ask you about that because over the years, maybe this is a question more for less, but we probably have not been putting as much money into reserves as we should have. And I thought that chart showing that we're at 131% of tax revenues was an indication of that. But you don't want to make a judgment call on that. I don't know, Les. When I looked at it, I thought, yeah, I know why it's there, because we haven't been putting as much money into reserves as we probably should have. Do you want to comment on that one?
I would agree with your statement, Deputy Mayor. That's true, because that was one of the areas we did do heavy cutting at the last budget process, was taking money out of reserves that we had put in.
So Les does make a judgment call on that. The other question I had, if I can ask too, Your Worship. And this is just my trying to understand something. On the obligatory reserve fund revenue recognized, we had budgeted to recognize $2.7 million, but in actual fact, we only recognized $478,000. And I went to note number 4 and tried to understand what had happened. Maybe Les can explain. It's not like
You are correct, Deputy Mayor. We budgeted the Bridge 5 to go ahead, and which was coming out of our, I call it gas tax still, and development charges. So there was 1.2 million right there.
And so that didn't happen in 2005, but it occurred, 2025, we just delayed that bridge.
It's happening this year.
Oh, okay, so now.
So next year, that money will those reserves will decrease.
Now I understand. Thank you. Those are the only two questions I had.
So I have one question, and that is your comparators. Without asking you who your other clients are or how many you have, are we comparing apples with apples in terms of like-sized municipalities for the most part?
Yeah, with our client base, they tend to be most of the rural municipalities in Wellington and Dufferin counties. We do have, I can say this because it's public record and so on. So amongst our audit clients are the town of Orangeville and the town of Shelburne, which would be our two largest. But you're kind of middle of the pack, I would say, relative to some of the much smaller municipalities in the two counties. And there's a number of them, of your approximate size. So you're kind of, I would say it's comparing apples to apples, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anything else? Elaine, anything? No, we're good. Okay. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a great presentation.
Thank you.
The time frame on when you're supposed to submit by?
For the FIR to the ministry. So it's an interesting question. Their deadline is May 31st. Very few municipalities hit that deadline. Their hard deadline, where they start looking at withholding some of your OMPF funding and so on, is in the fall. I think it's generally September 30th is a more solid deadline, because I think something less than 25%, it may even be less than 20% of municipalities submit by May 31st, just because of the timing of wrapping up year ends, getting audits completed, getting to present to council and getting into that schedule and so on. So very few municipalities, we try to hit those timelines where we can, but very few municipalities do, so. Sure.
So I do have a motion for council's consideration that will allow us to fall within that timeframe, that we approve the 2025 consolidated financial statements provided by RLB Chartered Accountants. Do I have a mover? Councillor Mangtalo, seconded by Councillor Davey. Any opposition to that? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So our next presentation has to do with the CTC Source Protection Region Joint Municipal Water Management Agreement. And good morning, Benin. How are you? If you could just give us your name for the record and
Thank you very much. And through the mayor, my name is Benham Dulatieri. I'm the senior manager of watershed planning, hydrogeology, and source protection at Credit Valley Conservation. I am here today. I have control over this. So where is the full page? There we go. Apologies, I'm going to look that way to keep track of where the presentation is. So I am here today speaking to you about the Orangeville Mono Tier 3 update. This was a water budget update and the additional technical work for the inclusion of Well 13 in Orangeville's drinking water system and the resultant amendment under the Clean Water Act, Section 34. Just a brief overview of the CTC source protection region. It includes CVC, TRC, and CLOCA conservation authorities. It spans a fairly large area with a number of large and fast-growing municipalities. A lot of our municipalities are feeling pressure from growth, and they're making changes to their drinking water systems in shape of new wells or intakes, modification of existing systems, or finding additional resources. Something that I should also mention is that changes to drinking water systems have to be reflected in the approved source protection plan for the area before provision of water to citizens, and that's a requirement under the Clean Water Act and the Safe Drinking Water Act, and it's in line with the precautionary principle and the multi-barrier approach we have to drinking water protection here in Ontario. Back in 2011, an original study was done for this area that found the local area to be under significant groundwater stress. And The local area is defined as the cone of influence of all the drinking water wells within the system, as well as any area in the surrounding where a reduction in recharge will have an impact on your municipal sources. The study found that groundwater was under significant stress under normal and drought condition, as well as potential impacts to the water streams in the vicinity. As a result of the finding of that study, and in line with the approved policies in the CTC source protection plan, but also in the South Georgian Bay Lake Simcoe and Lake Erie source protection plans, a joint municipal water management agreement was put in place between the 4 municipalities here in Dufferin County with Mono, Orangeville, Amaranth, and East Carriffraxa. The county was involved in the formulation of the agreement, but is not a signatory. And the aim of the agreement is minimizing water takings and potential land uses that will reduce recharge. It includes triggers for update of the model, cost allocation, and peer review and dispute resolution. And the study that we are presenting here today came about partly as a result of this, because the triggers there are 4 more triggers, for example, 5% increase in taking or 5% increase in 5% change in land use that may reduce recharge, that will necessitate update of the water budget for the area to ensure that you're proactively looking at the consequences for the shared resource. So the study was triggered as a result of this joint municipal agreement, but also as a requirement of the Clean Water Act and the approved policies in the CTC source protection plan. So in this slide, you're seeing what the dashed lines are showing is the outline of what the wellhead protection area were, and the colored areas is the changes and the current ones according to the new model. I'll start by saying that source protection, and under the Clean Water Act, it's a locally driven, science-based, and multi-stakeholder process. This amendment was initiated by the technical work by the town of Orangeville and the local source protection authority. The latest science and information were incorporated into this, and this is the part we consult with the stakeholders, and we'll talk about the process a little later in the presentation. What I would like to bring your attention to is that the overall size of the wellhead protection areas in a number of areas has decreased, and this is as a result of the better information that is available to the modeler. And I guess, a few points to point out is that drinking water for Orangeville comes from within their municipal boundary, but also outside. This is a shared resource between the municipalities, and the shared management of it is a priority. One important change that has happened that does not impact Mono, but the vulnerability upstream of well 5 and 5A has increased. This has gone from a vulnerability of 6 to 8 to 10. And what this means is the risk for potential contamination released at the surface to reach a well is higher than what it was before. This has happened because of the new wells that were drilled in the area as part of the development, but also Ontario Geological Survey has demonstrated that the overlying till layer that was protective of the local aquifer is not present, and it's mostly higher permeability material, therefore increasing the risk.
Okay.
Could you just repeat what the colors represent?
Yes, so green starts with the lowest vulnerability score to red, which is the highest. Red is a score of 10. Under source protection framework, our policies apply to activities in specific circumstances. So for example, storage and handling of fuel is prohibited in an area where vulnerability score is 10, which would be the case here. But it would not be prohibited in the area that would be green or yellow.
So these are areas of degrees of risk.
Correct.
Just a question also on this. Did you say that these dotted lines, the area of protection has gotten smaller?
Correct.
And it's gotten redder? Is there a correlation?
Not always redder, so the overall size has decreased in those areas, and that's as a function of better understanding that we have of what the hydrogeology of the area is, and we have new data points that certain assumptions about where the cone of influence of the wells would go. Also, this is getting into the weeds of this, the overall boundary of the model for the area was increased in this iteration. And previously, these wells were closer to the model boundary, and therefore the calculations would have been affected by the conditions that are reflected in that model. Now we're looking at a larger area with additional information so that we have a better understanding of what the time of travel, which is what this wellhead protection areas are based on. So for a wellhead protection area, we have multiple ones. The first one is A, which is the highest vulnerability. That's 100 meters around the well. That's not based on science. That was a decision at the beginning of the framework where that's the most sensitive. Then after that is 2-year, 5-year, and 25-year time of travel. Okay.
Thank you.
Yours? Go ahead. So moving on to water quantity, I forgot to mention, I also can keep it here, the new study confirmed the findings of the original study. So the significant groundwater stress still remains. The potential impact of the cold water streams are still identified. And therefore, everything within the local area, again, the inner line is the new one, the outer one is what it used to be. Any water taking within the area that is significant, under significant stress is considered a significant groundwater threat. Overall, again, the local area has shrunk a little bit, potentially reducing the number of properties that are going to be impacted by the policy, but the overall stress level remains. Now, CTC source protection policies apply within the designated vulnerable area, so within the wellhead protection area for quality and quantity. And while some of the technicalities have changed under the framework, the overall policy is the same. So since the findings, the groundwater stress hasn't changed and the policies haven't changed, none of this is new. This is in line with what we had thought previously. And the overall message here is that within the quality and quantity constraints that are being demonstrated by the technical work, based on the existing policies, additional growth in the wellhead, in the local area is not advisable. Not advisable. But I will caveat that based on questions that I received yesterday at Orangeville Council and last week at the county. This study, as part of the way that the model and everything was set up, it includes existing demand, committed demand, and then planned demand. So your potential new well in Klondike and the maximum rating of that well was also included. Some of the growth that hasn't been realized but is projected in your official plan, all of that was included in this. So what we're saying is anything beyond what was already committed and planned to occur. The opportunity here is the Source Protection Authority is available to support the municipalities, and that could be in terms of providing comments on your official plan, conformity requirements under Clean Water Act, zoning bylaw, and also with master planning or otherwise. So we have already provided feedback to Orangeville last year for their official plan update, and this year with East Garafraxar and Amaranth ongoing, we're having discussion. And to ensure that the results of this study are reflected in the official plan and the growth management strategy, we are holding another meeting of the Joint Municipal Water Management Agreement in August, specifically focusing on the employment lands in Amaranth and East Garafraxar to ensure these results are reflected in the way that those lands are managed. But also we're coordinating, we will be talking about this in August, we're coordinating comments and reviews of the county's upcoming official plan amendment with recommendations of how this could inform that, and then the following growth management strategy in 2028. So just going now to process, as we said, as I mentioned at the beginning, when changes to the drinking water system happened, they have to be reflected in the source protection plan. And that process is defined and mandated under the regulations of the Clean Water Act. It includes extensive engagement and consultation. We are right now at the stage called pre-consultation, where we have to receive council endorsement from all affected municipalities. So you are the seventh one and the final one in the row that have to, hopefully will endorse the amendment. Following that, we will go to public consultation period, and that will start this Wednesday from July 15th until August 31st. There is a comprehensive marketing and communication plan that goes with this, with social media, advertising in newspapers and radio. And we are also holding a public information center in Tony Rose Memorial on August 13th, 4:30 to 7:30, where members of the public will be invited to come and ask questions, and they can provide comments online or in written format. The timelines here are what we're anticipating. We're hoping to submit this to the ministry in the fall, noting that the ministry is ultimately the technical approval and the overall approval of these amendments. However, when we submit this to the ministry, we have no control over the timeline that they have in terms of approval. I would also add one more caveat here that last week, proposed changes to the Clean Water Act were released. This is changes that were proposed last November under Bill 56, and they are going to some will come into effect immediately, some on January of next year. We don't anticipate any impact to this amendment. However, we will be discussing potential impacts with the ministry in the coming days.
Fred?
And with that, I am done.
Okay, Ben, I'm going to ask you a question which I've asked you before, and you partly have already answered it in your presentation, which I thank you for. But the reason I'm asking the question again is we have public watching this session, Mono residents, and I want them to understand something. On the one hand, we know we have groundwater stresses in this area, and in particular in the Tier 3 study, it said that Mono's Cardinal Woods wells would not be able to meet future demands. That's what the conclusion was. So I put that information in one silo, and then I look at the municipal comprehensive review we did, which according to the province, we have to plan for 2051 to take more people in Dufferin County. Most of those people, about approximately 7,000, will go in the Orangeville area. And I put that information in another silo. And the question then I have is, hold it. We're already having trouble with our groundwater threats, not having enough water. And now we're going to put 7,000 more people here. Now, you've partly answered. In the Orangeville area, but it's in the area A of, yeah. So what I've often thought, or I've asked you is, shouldn't we solve the water problem first? Like we've already started at the county level to do an official plan amendment number 5. And one of the first studies they're doing is a land needs assessment, which with these more people and employment, we need some more lands. We're going to put people somewhere. And that's where I wonder if we're not putting the cart before the horse, because I would have thought, let's find the water first and then decide whether we can take this increase in population. Now, I've asked you this before, so you know, and I know you've got a good answer, but I'd like the public to hear in nice, simple terms why you don't think that's a problem or why it's been accounted for.
Thank you. Through the mayor. That's I will answer it, and I will encourage you to run for politics at the provincial level, because that would be very helpful in addressing these things. You are right, I think, and I should have said that at the county meeting. Hydrogeological assessment and water assessments are a feasibility, and they should take precedence. However, in practice, different municipalities have different timelines. The official plan amendment, the growth projections, and the MCRs happen at different timelines. And while we do have a process that accounts for this and uses the latest available information, that sequencing would have been helpful. In reality, the master planning process is how the municipality looks at what their projected demand is, and then they look at what available information is, and they make realistic decisions. As a source protection authority, what we do and what we try to do is ensure the latest available information is out there for the municipalities at whatever stage of their official plan or master planning process to be able to make realistic land use decisions that will account for the water stress or availability. In this particular case, in discussions we've had with the Joint Municipal Water Management Group, the county's official plan amendment and growth management strategy, which will then trickle down and inform the lower tiers, is the best avenue for ensuring this. Now, again, going back to the study, it included existing demand, it included committed and also planned demand that is going to be. So it accounted for, I don't think it was till 2051, because I don't think your growth projections go till 2051. It's different from different municipalities and within.
2051.
Okay, so
County does.
County does, yes. So whatever was available was put into the assessment, the risk assessment, so and that was accounted for. Whether or not Orangeville's additional 7,000 people would go to the local area as opposed to in the broader area is the question. Some of that 7,000 would have been accounted for in their committed demand in the model, and some of it may not have been. I don't know the details of that. However, what we have openly discussed at county and last night at Orangeville Council is anything beyond what was committed already is not advisable. We know Orangeville is looking for potentially new sources outside the local area to ensure that the existing significant stress is not exacerbated.
Yep.
Now, that future demand that you're talking about, would it have taken into account the fact that in Mono's Cardinal Woods wells, we've had an environmental assessment study where other wells over at Island Lake and the Coles wells.
And the Klondike.
Beg your pardon?
The Klondike.
No. Over at Island Lake and the Coles wells, we've got a problem there with arsenic. The preferred solution is to use the Cardinal Woods wells plus the two new wells in Klondike and pump that water over to that other system. That's adding quite a few people to our water system from the same place where we've already had the report from the Tier 3 study that the Cardinal Woods wells will have trouble meeting future demands. So what my follow-up question to you is, when you say the models accounted for these future demands, did it include the Cardinal Woods Klondike area supplying the water to Island Lake?
Yes.
It did.
Correct. So what it...
So you knew the results of our environmental assessment study before?
Not quite.
Before we got the study done.
So, and through the mayor, sorry. What the study does is you use the projected takings from all of your wells, and the plan it was somewhat of a challenge to include the Klondike because your EA is not finished. And municipalities don't get to reserve water. It has to be in the works and approved based on certain requirements. However, the Klondike well and the projected pumping rate that you would need to meet your demand numbers, there were certain assumptions put in place based on what the daily intake of a person and usage would be, but that was included in this model. And we did this to ensure that by the time you get to the finish line and make a decision, you don't have to make a new model from scratch, that you already have it incorporated and you get to update it accordingly.
What our residents should know is, even though we have a water quantity threat in this area, the models are suggesting if we're careful and we do it properly, we are going to, 20 years from now, we're still going to be able to turn the tap on and get water.
Yes. So I should clarify that when we talk about significant threat, none of the municipalities to date have had problem meeting demand as what they currently need. What this is highlighting is under certain circumstances, you may surpass your safe available drawdown. Now, the models are done and the city, the municipal plans are done with certain safety factors and certain conservative assumptions. That doesn't mean that the significant threat is not real, and that should be considered. But what the solution here would be very collaborative and integrated decision-making on land use, because this is a shared resource between the 4 municipalities.
So bottom line, this is not Waterloo Region.
This is not Waterloo Region, and we are hoping not to become Waterloo Region. That's why I'm going to all the councils and having these conversations.
So I have a quick question for you, and it's a practical one, and we have a neighboring municipality that regulates lawn watering in various periods of time. I do not believe that we do, but are we at the point where we should start thinking about that?
So I would put that in perspective. When we talk about stress, the largest taker is the municipal wells overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what would be helpful is reduction of the municipal taking as a whole, whether or not individual lawns would contribute to this. If they're using well water or if they're using municipally provided water, if reduction of total takings overall would be helpful. But I am careful of straddling the line of penalizing individual landowners versus the overall system.
And I'm not advocating
Okay.
that. I make that absolutely clear. I'm just saying that some municipalities are taking a different approach to what they regard as excessive lawn watering. And we've all heard the stories of sprinkler systems that are on timers and they go on, and whether it's raining or not, the lawn is being watered maybe twice.
I would say that overall reduction, overall municipal programs aimed at reducing demand from private residents would be effective. Orangeville implemented similar programs in the past, and for a certain number of years, they were actually quite effective in reducing total takings, and that would be helpful in the long term.
Certainly, the introduction of meters in Orangeville was a huge progressive thing.
Absolutely.
Any other questions, comments? Mike?
Thank you, Worship. Just thank Benham for that, but just more for the public again, for Deputy Nix. So Dwight Smykel, which all of you know, is our protecting the town's interests with respect to the work that's been prepared on this source protection plan from R.J. Burnside, and I believe he sits on your steering committee. So that puts that into perspective. Matt and I worked with Dwight all through this process. With respect to development, I just want to clarify something is while we have included the projected growth inside of the studies that have the Tier 3 modeling that have been done, I want this more for developers, I guess, to say that there's available capacity in the aquifer to satisfy potential growth does not mean that there's available capacity in our reservoirs and our water system to handle that growth. So I don't want there to be a misleading factor that we got lots of water and the reservoirs and the pumps and everything is ready to go. So I think that's important because we do have potential applications for growth in those areas. And with respect to the lawn watering, so we have been working with Orangeville with respect to their lawn watering restrictions. It's fairly aggressive, but Council approved the fees and charges bylaw, amendments to the fees and charges bylaw some time ago, and that caused our water bylaw to come out of alignment with its fees and charges within it. And Matt's been working on a new water bylaw, and we're looking at lawn watering restrictions within that, and we do noticeably see, because of our measuring of cubic meters of usage within the water systems, we do see spikes at 5 in the morning, and that's when the bulk of the water gets used. Not all necessarily related to commuters having showers.
So it's an interesting thing. So even in the rural setting, if you're by the aquifer over here, not in the whatever, you still. And you water because it's my own well and everything, you may have an effect downstream, right? But the people who are in our service area, they know that they're using more water because they're paying for more water, right? The neighbor who's watering the lawn has a bigger bill than the guy who's not, right? So the message is that it doesn't matter even if you pay for it, it still is a limited resource, right?
Thank you.
Correct. Just elaborating, if I might, the reason I'm being careful about the way we talk about this is within the model itself, we did not include private resident wells because that's outside the tolerance of the model and what we're projecting. So that wasn't included, and we don't consider those a significant threat here. But overall, this is cumulative, absolutely. And you're limited by your geology. What water is available, that's not going to change. And so it absolutely makes sense. And one note, thank Mike for reminding me, the study, because of the multi-stakeholder nature of this, we had a steering committee overseeing this with representation from technical staff from all the municipalities, as well as the 3 source protection authorities that have policies applicable to this area. And we also included representation from the Ministry of Environment, so from the source protection branch, as well as the Oak Ridges Moraine Groundwater Program, which is provides data management and the custodianship of all of our groundwater model within the source protection program, which has been very helpful.
Great. Well, thank you very much for. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you for clarifying something that's a little bit fuzzy for us.
It's not on.
Thank you for clarifying something that can be very fuzzy. A part of your package included the management agreement. And there's a table in there which I really couldn't fully understand, and you haven't commented on it here, so I'd like to ask you to explain it. It's table 1. It's the predicted impacts of water taking and recharge reduction. What? Can we throw that one up?
Yeah, I don't have the agenda package in front of me. Is it part of?
Oh, you only had the,
Yeah.
it's in the proposed amendments, right?
Yeah.
Is that table one?
Keep going, yeah. Coming up. So that's the table I was, can you explain what that table means and why is Cardinal Woods 2 so high?
I have to admit, I would need to go back to the agreement and review before I can answer your question. I'd be happy to get back to you, but
Okay.
I don't. There is a study that informs I forget the title of the study, Cres, the consultant who made this. They looked at the relative contributions of the takings from the different wells and the potential changes in land use as a way of determining how the cost allocation framework would work. So at the end of it, they have come up with a split where 77 or 67% of the cost would be determined by any increase in the takings, and then the 33% would be determined by any increase in land use. Those percentages were determined based on the relative importance of the changes to the overall takings. What those numbers specifically mean, I don't have top of mind, and I would have to look at. But the intent of the background study was to determine how to then look at the impact from each municipality on the overall. So if you imagine in this particular case, because the bulk of the land use and the taking is occurring in Orangeville and Amaranth, they are paying the bulk, most of the overall cost, and that's reflected in the financial impact between the municipalities. But explanation of that table, I'll be happy to get back to you.
I presume that these are volumes when they say the protected impact, and you have, for example, from well 2A, 47%, and then for Cardinal Woods 2, you have a 986% increase. So that just seems funny to me. Yeah, you get back to me.
I will get back to you.
To us.
I
Thank you.
apologize, I don't have that top of mind.
And if when you're looking into it, the anomaly that I saw was the Pullen well is quite low, whereas I've always understood the Pullen well is a major contributor of water when it's fully online.
So I would have to, again, minor differences. The Pullen well is abandoned, or is being abandoned. This is well 13. Well 13 is very close to the Pullen well.
Okay,
The
my
Pullen well
mistake.
was
Yeah.
never brought online to contribute to the system. It was there, it was included in the source protection
Okay.
plan, but the takings were not.
I'm thinking of the high volume one approximate
The new
to
one,
it.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
So that wasn't available at the time when this agreement was put in place, but the overall framework of the cost allocation still remains and was confirmed at the meeting in February of how we go about allocating the cost.
Okay. Any other questions? So I have a motion that Council for the Town of Mono receive the information, report proposed amendments under Section 34 of the Clean Water Act, and that pursuant to the requirements under Section 34 of the Clean Water Act 2006 outlined in the Credit Valley Source Protection Authority's correspondence of June 5th, 2026, Council endorses the amendments to source protection plans and assessment reports listed in this report to incorporate the recent technical work completed for the Orangeville Mono water budget update and addition of the new municipal supply well 13 to the Orangeville drinking water system, and that a copy of this resolution be provided to the Credit Valley, Grand River, and Nottawasaga Valley Source Protection Authorities no later than July 15th, 2026. Do I have a mover for that? Would you like to move? So Councillor Nix moves, seconded by Councillor Davey. Any further questions, discussion?
Should we vote it down? That was a joke.
Question on process.
Yeah.
Should I send a follow-up to Matt to get to you? To answer your questions, I would guess follow up with you, Mike.
You can send those through to Jessica and Fred, and they'll distribute to council.
Yep. Any opposition to that motion? Motion carries. Thank you very much again. And we have a 5-minute break, reconvening. A little more than 5 minutes, reconvening at 10:30. Thanks.
We are back live.
Next item on the agenda is a special event license application on behalf of Theatre Orangeville. And welcome. Hi, Gary, how are you? So who would like to begin? We need to press the button on the speaker. And your name? Yeah.
My name is Jack Baird. I'm a resident of Mono. I live on Hockley Road. And we're applying to have a permit granted and a waiver of fees if possible, so that we can run a charity event at my property in favor of raising money for the Orangeville Theatre. The idea has been, I think, communicated in writing through to the council officers. The date is September 12th, assuming weather permits. We have I haven't made many arrangements myself. The arrangements have been very thoroughly managed by the Orangeville Theatre Management Committee, but they have also arranged us an alternative location at the town hall in the event that we have bad weather. With all the same events, we have 5 musicians, local musicians who've volunteered their time. One is a group called Our Old School, I think it is, and they've invited 3 other musicians to come and participate. The event will be in the meadow yard adjoining my barn, so the barn will be the backdrop visually. The town the theater people will create a stage that's large enough to have all 5 musicians on it at the same time. That will be prepared in their workshop, brought to the property a couple of days prior and assembled. The staffing will be mainly volunteers from the Theatre Orangeville. Theatre Orangeville has quite a large battery of volunteers, because they're required to have, I think, something like 7 or 8 volunteers at every performance of the theater. And actually, Gary's wife organizes that whole end of the things. So she'll be organizing volunteers from the theater to help with parking. I've mowed out a large parking area on the property that has a separate driveway that's been cleared. They're going to supply 2 volunteers to assist with the parking so that we don't have any on-road parking. And we'll have another parking supervisor at the other driveway, which is closer to the actual event. But we want to make sure that people go to the right driveway, but we're going to let people drop guests off fairly closer. It's about a 300-meter walk from the parking lot to the event, and we think that some people will benefit from having a shorter walk. Other volunteers will be assisting with cleanup, setup, and I don't know what the actual nose count is at this point. Perhaps, forgive me if I'm giving too much detail. I don't know if that's more than you need. So the event, as I said, will be sponsored by, it's on the theater website. I thought if you support our application here, that you may choose to put a link on your website referring people to the fact that you support the event, and that you can send interested parties to the town, the theater website, so they can purchase tickets. We're limiting ticket sales to 100 people. There will be, the ticket sales are $100 a person. In return for that, the guests will receive a $65 tax-deductible donation credit, and the other $35 will be going towards food and beverage. We're not looking for a liquor license. It'll be all soft drinks, water, and juice. We did initially think about having it licensed, but the Snakes and Ladders Board that we had to go through in order to get that approved was just not worth the effort. It's a first effort, so we thought we'd keep it fairly limited. There's room for more people to be there. I can give you the dimensions for the site if you like. You have a map, but the map doesn't show the actual dimensions. If you're interested in that, I can do it. I'd also invite anyone here to come and visit the site so that you can eyeball it yourself and satisfy yourself that it's an appropriate venue for what we're trying to do. The timing will be from 2 to 5, but we expect people will be arriving probably shortly after 1, knowing that there's going to be parking requirements, a bit of a walk, and that's all being communicated at the theater site. And we expect, even though the music stops at 5, that there will be cleanup and takedown. So the volunteers will probably be there from 1 o'clock through to about 6 o'clock. And we seem to be having enthusiastic support from the volunteers. The whole idea is Gary's in the first place. He was seconded by the council committee to come up with some ideas for fundraising, and this is his idea. So beyond that, I don't know. I guess I can just let you ask me questions.
Yes, any questions? Fred, and then
I don't really have
Elaine,
a
and
question.
then
I was just going to say I walk by your place almost every morning when my wife makes me do my walk, and I've seen the grass that you've cut for the parking area, and I think it's a great venue, a great effort, and I'm all for granting this license. And I don't know, are you requesting an exemption from the fee too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think there's Fred can probably speak to that. I don't know what the details are in terms of what the fees are. There's, I gather, police, health, safety, fire department. I honestly don't know what they are, but whatever they are, we're hoping, because the whole thing is in favor of a charitable event, that you'll waive those fees.
Elaine?
Thank you, Your Worship. The fee that I believe that Mr. Nix is referring to is the $500 application fee. Any other fees that you are charged by fire and emergency services have nothing to do with the town, and you would have to pay if those were there. So those are on you. My question is, people walking from the parking to the event, where are they walking?
There's a pathway. It's about 8 feet wide. It's on level ground, as level as a farmer's field could be. It's been mowed. It will be mowed continuously between now and then, and it goes straight from the parking area inside our fence, so it's not on the soft shoulder of the road at all. And it's a direct line to the secondary driveway, which they would walk up to the event.
Okay, thank you. I was just making sure they weren't walking on the road. And then I just wanted to understand, have you talked to your surrounding neighbors to get their agreement that this is something that they are willing to?
I've talked to, there's 3 houses within earshot, I suppose, of our house. One is the Lindsays. I've spoken to them, and they're totally in agreement. Another couple live on the other side of the creek. I haven't told them about the event. And there's another single lady who lives on another house right on the Hockley Road. I haven't spoken to them. But we thought, since it's an afternoon event from 2 to 5 o'clock, that it would be unlikely to be an annoyance to them. I can hear their radios on a Saturday afternoon, so I would think that they would support it. If you require me to go and get a written approval or even a verbal approval, I can do so. What we thought we would do as a backup, if you like, is I have approval from the Theatre Orangeville Committee to offer 5 tickets to those neighbors, which would be all of the residents, to just come to the event. So that if they're impacted by the sound, it would be because they're there. So I've told 2 of them about that plan, and they said thank you very much, and they'll probably attend. I haven't talked to the other 3 at this point.
Okay.
Ralph?
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Did I put my hand up? You did. Okay. Full disclosure, Jack's a good friend of mine. I think it's very generous of you to do this and open your property, and a lot of work to put some money forward to the theater. And of course, I very much support it and support the waiving of the fee.
Linda?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation and all the documents and everything. It's great. I totally support it. Just a general question, though, about our application fee. And not directed towards you, but just a question to put out there, that we have this fee, we've looked at all the fees, and we decided that it was reasonable, and yet every single person who comes to us and asks us for something, not necessarily an event one, but for a noise exemption and everything, everybody always asks, and that they're always, it's because it's a nonprofit, or it's because it's a charity, or it's because it's my brother's, whatever. I don't want to pay the fee, and I think we need to look at that, because the reason why we have the fee is because there are costs involved in us sitting here talking about it, staff preparing the report, and whatever else comes behind the doors that I don't know that the staff does. There's time, and so that's a cost. And nonprofits do not make profit, but they also, they're businesses, right? They make money to have business costs, and so it seems reasonable that we pay it. But I would be surprised if we make a decision today to do that.
Well, I guess transactions that involve dollars are trade-offs. What we're prepared to do, and I think the theater has confirmed this to me, we're prepared to give acknowledgement in our ticketing and in our literature, acknowledging the support that was given by the town, including financial support of that sort.
Right, that's great. Yeah, no, it's a great cause, and I look forward to your event.
Ralph?
It's a good point, Melinda. We do keep forgiving for worthy causes, but it's a good thing that we have worthy causes. And this is certainly one, and they're not making millions out of this, and so it's nice to not diminish the take home that goes to the Orangeville Theatre, and so our town is very supportive of activities like this, I think, and so that's the reason why we tend to waive these things, because we're all good guys.
And most importantly, we pay taxes too, unlike some other organizations. Fred?
Just one comment, Jack. The thing I would be concerned about, and you live on Hockley Road as I do, is on a Saturday, the motorcycles going through. I mean, I don't know how...
Well, we could put up barriers preventing motorcycles for the period of the presentation. I'm sure they'd love that. It'll give them an opportunity to explore some other roads.
I mean, they can be awful sometimes, and I hope your musicians can either bear with it or pause.
I can't speak for all of them, but the old school, it's a duo. They do a lot of events around town. A lot of them are outside. Probably not as many are as outside as you would be on Hockley Road, because you're correct, there's lots of traffic there. But I think they're pretty much aware of what the situation is, and we'll just somehow integrate the motorcycle noise with the music.
Okay. On that happy note, I do have a motion for you. That we approve the issuance of a special event license pursuant to Bylaw 84-23 a bylaw to regulate the holding of public entertainment, festivals, and parades in the town of Mono, to Theatre Orangeville to hold a festival at 307596 Hockley Road on September 12th, and that the license shall be conditional to all terms and conditions included with the license, and further that the $500 application fee be waived.
Thank you very much.
Any questions or issues?
You need to move her in a second.
We need a mover in a second.
Before I make a comment, we need to move in a second, so I'll move it.
Okay. And it's,
And just to comment, this was why Elaine asked you the question, and why earlier when we had the discussion in our public question period about our noise bylaw exemptions, the communicating with your neighbors, that it saves things in the future if you just give them the tickets is an excellent idea. But this is an example of where we have said in the motion, the basic clause of all the terms and conditions you must abide by. So you need to read the couple of page document, right, is what it is to people.
We have every intent of abiding by whatever the rules are that you set, and I'll read them diligently. I'll make sure that the other volunteers are made fully aware of whatever conditions apply.
Excellent. I have no doubt that you will, by the way you have come and presented this to us. I just make these comments for the viewers later who are watching this, that if you're coming, these are kind of important things. So thank you.
I could add one more thing that you haven't asked, and I should have covered it. I understand there's rules about tents. We are having it catered by a professional catering firm from Orangeville, but they don't need a tent beyond maybe an 8x8 or something, just cover food. So there's
Right, I saw in there were quite
that
modest
covered?
tents that you've got.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
yes. Thank you very much.
yeah. Thank you. I don't think you'll find the conditions onerous. Good. So the motion is moved and seconded. Any opposition to the motion? Seeing none, motion carries.
Cold feet.
What's that? Thank you very
Jack,
much.
and,
I appreciate your
Gary, thank you.
listening to our story and your support.
Yeah.
So is there someone I can put the theater people in touch with here so that you can talk? Do you want to be linked to the theater? And if so, who should we be talking to?
Probably through Fred or Jessica.
Yeah. Well,
Jessica.
Kennedy, our new clerk. Well, no, she's been here a week.
So do you want to show him how it's done properly then? Okay. I'll have them talk to you two, and you can sort something out. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Great. Good to see you. She's doing great. She's.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Soft, yeah?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Next item is unfinished council business. Any comments or questions on that document? Elaine?
Just to advise council that I believe we're working on having an update on the Mono Recreation Complex for the next meeting on August 20-something, 5th. So,
Okay.
tuned.
So moving along, next item on the agenda is the building services agreement with the County of Dufferin. And this has to do with our agreement for the provision of building services. Mike or Fred, any comments on this? This is fairly routine.
No, this was worked on by the participating municipalities. It has been vetted by town solicitor, and happy with the content of it to continue our services. It generally in line with the report that was done by the treasurer 5 or 6 months ago.
So I have a motion that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw authorizing the town of Mono to enter into an agreement with the county of Dufferin for the provision of building services substantially in the form as attached as Schedule A to the bylaw, and that it be signed by the mayor and clerk for the town of Mono, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Moved by Councillor Capes, seconded by Councillor Mantolo. Any opposition? Seeing none, that motion passes. The next item is the motion by Councillor Capes. Councillor Capes, if you can help me out on this, because I'm having bad connections with the internet. So are we looking at a wording today or just an update?
No, the motion is there. I can read it for you if you like.
Actually, no, I do have a motion here.
Would you like me to read it?
No, I can
will move it, so
read
in
read
I
it,
can move it.
and then I'll read it, and
Okay.
then you can move it. Whereas council has directed staff to undertake a review of Town of Mono Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 78-1 as amended, and whereas Bylaw 78-1 includes provisions pertaining to the maximum height and gross floor area of accessory buildings and structures, and whereas council wishes to consider establishing height and lot coverage restrictions specific to accessory buildings and structures with respect to the suburban residential, hamlet residential, and rural estate zones. Therefore, be it resolved that council directs staff to assess the feasibility of establishing specific provisions regarding accessory buildings and structures in the three above-mentioned zones as part of the overall review of the Town of Mono's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 78-1 as amended. And you would like to move that, Councillor Capes? Anyone
Yes,
like to
please.
second it? Fred, are you seconding? Sure. For purpose of discussion? Okay. Questions, discussion?
I was just going to say, I'm surprised, Elaine, and I should have known this, but you know how zoning bylaws put me to sleep. I was surprised that we don't, in fact, I know for rural RU zones, we do have restrictions on height and lot coverage, right? I was surprised in these three other areas, suburban residential, hamlet residential, and rural estate, that we don't already have these restrictions. But that's maybe just my ignorance.
We don't have it in.
So for accessory buildings in those zones, the restrictions on accessory buildings are identical to the primary building. There is no separate and distinct restrictions for accessory buildings.
Melinda?
So I mean, I appreciate that Elaine, did this because of what we had last meeting and so on. But when I followed up with our planner, the point was that we didn't, like, it's all in, everything has to happen in a step. And so this is itemizing that, yes, we would like to look at this before we get everybody building accessory buildings in these zones, but that this is a part of a very big thing that has to happen in step, right? That we have to have our, the county and then our official plan before we can, organized before we can start really changing some of these things, so that it just goes into the pile of all of the things that we're looking at on our unfinished business list, right, with respect to building. Am I incorrect, Mike?
The most productive way to proceed with zoning bylaw amendments would be to take on multiple issues at the same time. So we're not doing individual, because these are stat meetings, these are full mailouts. So the most productive way is to generate a list. And when the county gets done, as you'll recall, and Deputy Nix mentioned it, the county's redoing their OP again that they just finished. So we were in line to do our OP followed by the zoning bylaw, but we've delayed that from a financial perspective. It just doesn't make sense anymore. But putting together, compiling a list with respect to zoning bylaw amendments is definitely the most productive and most comprehensive way to get to all the residents and so forth at one time.
So do you consider this motion to be the start of such a list or an addition to such a list?
So staff have a list of items that we've been dealing with. This was actually on our list, so that's good. The height restriction, not the square footage, but the lack of height restriction in these zones was definitely something that we had flagged for addition when we do the zoning bylaw. And there are other things at play right now. Last night we had a very productive a large home discussion with respect to the Planning, Environmental, Natural Heritage Committee, which resulted in the committee a 2 hour and a half discussion, and they're asking for a little bit more information from staff before they provide a resolution of advice to council. So that will go on the list. I believe our unfinished business list has quite a few things that would go on to the zoning bylaw. So there's a list, and it's generated and it's growing.
Right, so then it's not really necessary for us to have individual motions for everything. You guys the staff is doing their job, and when the staff gets an opportunity, because the county keeps changing things, but when the staff gets an opportunity to, when it is reasonable, right? We don't want to spend money on stuff that we don't want to, that we're just going to have to do later, right? Then you'll come to us with a decision for decision making.
These motions identify council priorities, so they're good. They get added to the unfinished business list, but these are. And they show transparency to the public that council's concerned. Whether this is passed or not is up to council. But there's no. We all have time to sit here, and this is good time spent talking about concerns that council has.
Great.
So I would just add to that I've recently been working with a resident of Mono who operates a farm, who is attempting to replace a dilapidated old barn, and who's run afoul of the fact that we have a size limitation on, quote, accessory buildings. And he feels, and I feel, that when you're replacing an existing agricultural structure, one should not have to go through a committee of adjustment process if one is simply replacing the old structure with a new structure of identical size. But he is going through the committee of adjustment process, and I think that we need to look at whether or not we should be requiring this in the future, but I'm not going to amend the motion here. I'll bring my own motion at some point.
Yeah.
Elaine's had her hand up for a while.
Yes, Elaine? And then
Well,
Melinda.
thank you, Melinda. Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to add to this, as Mike referred to, the committee reviewed the large homes bylaw, which is 78-1 as amended. And so this forms part of the changes that would come, in my mind, with that. So that it is not just another thing, it is part of changing that bylaw 78-1 as amended. So hence its timing is good to just make sure we take note of that for inclusion in that bylaw change or zoning change.
Melinda?
I completely concur, Elaine, but I mean, I think credit, it needs to go where credit is due. The staff is on it, right? We're not planners. That's not our position, right? We have, and what begs the question when you bring up somebody who's got a barn that, well, maybe was the barn not built appropriately to the whatever in the first place, which we don't want.
150 years ago, it was built appropriately, and now it's falling down.
Well, so and now things change, and so you have to go through the rules, right? Like we're not planners. So I don't want to get into the weeds of that kind of a thing.
Melinda,
Yep.
to your point, Melinda, this was brought up at a past meeting that people were concerned with the height and size of accessory buildings, and we wanted to address that. So we're just highlighting the fact that as part of our zoning review and the 78-1, we should look at this. That's just
Totally,
highlighting that.
totally concur. I just don't want us to get thinking that they're also at that meeting. One of the big concerns, because the person who was here was the next door neighbor, was that the stuff is to the new building and the new whatever, which we did not approve, but the building exists and it is within the boundaries that it was supposed to, and yet the residents don't like it, right? It was too close to the lot line and so on. So there's more to the picture is all I'm saying. There's more to it than just the height and the gross floor area. But sure, to be adding it as our CIO has said is no harm. I'm just saying that I don't want anybody to think that there isn't a big, long list of things that will eventually come to a council for a decision.
Well, to put this in further perspective, we've been hearing about a revision of the zoning bylaw now for about 4 or 5 years, and it hasn't happened yet. And it has, on at least one occasion, necessitated an adjustment to the zoning bylaw in the wake of the debate over the Smokies Garage. So we either have two choices. One is that we get on with this zoning bylaw, and quite frankly, I wouldn't wait for the county because that could add another year or two. But at some point, we've got to get on with these adjustments. So I welcome this motion, and while I'm not a planner, I don't hesitate to have planning opinions. Go ahead.
I wasn't going to say this, but I will, and this relates to what John was talking about, the chap who wants to redo his barn. I have a problem in our current bylaw and even in...
Go ahead.
And even in the motion that you've just presented, Elaine, with the word accessory. I don't think a barn is an accessory to a residential house. The definition of accessory, according to the Webster Dictionary, is an object or device that is not essential in itself, but adds blah, blah, blah to the effectiveness. Well, a barn is essential to itself if you're a farmer. I just think we've got a problem with the word accessory, particularly in the current bylaw, which when it gives examples of accessory, it mentions like a garage or something, which is clearly accessory to a residential house. I'm not arguing with you, Mr. CAO. I'm just saying I have a problem with the current bylaw in terms of what definitions mean. I don't think it applies to barns.
I plead guilty as I've taken us down a different rabbit hole here, but I think if we just simply deal with Elaine's motion.
Yes, you have, but this does not apply, this is not identifying rural or agricultural. If you read it's the suburban residential, hamlet residential, and rural estate zones. So I agree with what you're saying, but that's a totally separate
There
focus.
are definitional issues that need to be sorted out as well, but
Your Worship,
Right.
why don't I do this? I'll reopen the conversation of the zoning bylaw amendment with the planner, and we have one planner doing the zoning bylaw and one doing the OPA, and I'll open that discussion again. But the zoning bylaw is 160 pages long. So if you're ready and in for it, it may come before the election, it may not,
and maybe 140 of those are just fine and we don't need to change.
Right.
But those.
But if
there
we're
are-
starting with accessory building, which I think is the definition number one in the list, it's not a short process. This council will not get through,
We
in my
won't get it
opinion,
done.
a zoning bylaw amendment. But I think to probably work this conversation back to the motion at hand, I can open that conversation and give a verbal update on what the best recommended advice is to move forward, whether it be individual or comprehensive.
So on that note, I'm going to call the question. Any opposed to this motion? Okay, and those in favor? Motion is carried.
You were so quiet.
We don't need it.
Well, we
It's
don't.
going to be done anyway.
We don't.
It's redundant.
No,
We just voted for something that's redundant. It's
No,
going to be done
I-
anyway, so I don't know why we voted for it.
because I think we each get to signal our desire for various changes and going in various
I think
directions.
from the discussion, it's very obvious that we need to include this. It's going to be done, the staff are going to do it anyway.
Your microphone.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying this is a discussion after the fact, but I'm very surprised that any of you wanted to vote for this because it's going to be done anyway. We don't need to vote for it. The staff have got the message.
Well, I
agree.
think, okay, it's passed anyway.
It's passed.
So I have a motion that we accept Schedule A to this agenda. Do I? Oh, Fred?
There's an application.
So, Your Worship, you'll
Oh,
recall, and
I am rushing ahead on
Yeah.
myself again. So we have a noise bylaw exemption application, 8 Mitchell Crescent. Discussion?
So, Your Worship, this came in late last week. An individual, the homeowner, reached out to me. It is for that individual's wedding on his personal property, so, and he wasn't aware until just recently the requirement to make an application. The planned wedding date is prior to the next council meeting. So with that in mind, I was seeking council's indulgence to put this on the agenda as a late added item. The details are in my report. Basically, a wedding in a backyard in a suburban area with an acoustic band and no loudspeakers. And if there are any other questions about details, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions or comments from council? Elaine?
Again, I'm going to ask if the neighbors were all consulted and are okay with having this event in close proximity, because it's it's a subdivision. So I would hope that the applicant has done some pre-work and going to all the surrounding neighbors to make sure that they're okay with this. I recall when the Mono Center was having their celebrations, they wanted to have fireworks and they got signatures from people to say that they were all in agreement with this. So I just, being good neighbors means making sure your neighbors know what's happening and not just coming here to get an exemption.
Is it fireworks?
Well, I think maybe if this motion passes, one of the conditions could and should be that the immediate neighbors are notified.
Well, being notified and then not being able to do anything is not the same thing. And as we know, this came late. Maybe people haven't seen it. It's almost like it's an after the fact notification to neighbors, and then there's no chance for them to have any recourse. So I'm not sure I like that.
It gets back to the question of the cart before the horse, frankly. Any further discussion, comments?
Question. Fred, do we know anything more? Is this the wedding of somebody who's a family member?
It's his wedding.
It's the applicant's wedding himself.
Sounds very good to me. I'm very supportive of it.
I'm just a bit troubled. I mean, he says there will be no loudspeakers, but the live band in the backyard will go to 10 p.m. And quite frankly, those lots in that subdivision are, 30, 40, 50 feet wide. I mean, I would hate to say no. I will admit that, Councillor Manklow, I agree. But you know what? Having a live band in those small lots,
It's guy's wedding.
I know, but he's got neighbors, and the band is going to be playing until 10 o'clock, the speeches until 11 o'clock. Okay, the speeches shouldn't be a problem, because the noise won't be any louder than anyone speaking in their backyard. I'm nervous about this. I really am conflicted whether or not we should grant it.
Well, until recently, people were having parties all the time in their backyards, and they weren't coming to the town for dispensation.
And the front driveway.
Now, having said that, I will not be voting to issue a permit to make noise, but I don't think he needs one if he's going to be a good neighbor in terms of how he organizes his party, his wedding.
So if I mean, you're just suggesting, no exemption, go ahead and do it and see if there's a complaint.
That's what we voted the last time we had a noise exemption, isn't it?
I agree. Anyways,
It's not amplified noise, amplified sound, I should say.
But a live band will have a drum and something else, and this is, I don't know what size of lot he's got, a 40 or 50-foot lot. I mean, boy.
It's a community event.
It's not, it's a private wedding. I would suspect the neighbors have not been invited.
I suspect the neighbors will be supportive.
so just a point of clarification. Our noise bylaw does not speak to amplified sound so much as it speaks to noise that disturbs. That's true. So you can have noise that disturbs without amplification, and it's still potentially a chargeable offense unless there is a permit to make noise. So on that happy note, anyone want to call the question?
So are you voting against it?
Yes, I am, because I'm trying to be consistent in my approach on this thing, that people should moderate their behavior, and if they do, it's not a problem. So the question is, why do they need an exemption or permit to make noise? Elaine?
Oh, you know, in good faith, this citizen has come forward to ask for an exemption because they don't want to be in violation of the town's bylaw. So perhaps we've got some conflicting messaging going on, because now you're calling it a bylaw to make noise. So it's, you know, he's trying to be a good citizen in that sense by coming to ask for an exemption so that he's not in violation of the bylaw that we've implemented. So to just say, well, we don't grant the exemption and just let him get, you know, the wrath of whatever happens. But I don't know, I find this not clear and not...
Well, I commend him for coming forward and making the application. I think, you know, he has every right to do that, and not every party that's going to be held this summer is going to take the same approach. So in that respect, you know, he's done the right thing, but it's also interesting.
Well, and the other issue is we had given an exemption to somebody and then this season, and I've just heard that they went ahead, but they were over the boundaries of what they said they were going to do, right? Because, well, now I've got an exemption, and the exemption had been given in an effort to negotiate a peaceful party for them. So you are right. The exemption part is a funny thing, because our bylaw also has, if you're going to make these kinds of noises like mowing the lawn and those kinds of things, we put times on it, right? Things that neighbors can be, times that they can be assured that it's going to stop, right? It's not going to go till 3 a.m. and so on. So if you give the person an exemption, then yeah, it could turn into an all-night party, right? Versus if you don't give an exemption and they are try to be a good neighbor with respect to, like, it's such a small garden on the picture, band should be inside, right? That maybe it's less disturbing to the folks who are, but that whole neighborhood, if you got a band in your back garden, that whole neighborhood's going to hear it. It's not just your neighbors, right?
And I think, Your Worship, if I could just add one more comment. By us granting an exemption, we in fact become complicit in potentially bothering all the other neighbors. I mean, I sort of agree. He could go ahead and have the party, the wedding.
Absolutely.
Without an exemption. If he bothers the neighbors and there's a complaint, he takes his chances. If we grant him an exemption, we're guilty of any potential noise that bothers neighbors.
So the other thing about the question that Ms. Hogue brought us at the beginning of the meeting with respect to, okay, I've made my complaint now, what's the follow-up going to be, right? I mean, that, we need to make sure that that mechanism is functioning properly, which I wonder whether, we don't know. We didn't get the information back of whether it just doesn't matter that you guys didn't get notification or that they didn't push the button properly so that they made the thing, but it didn't ever, complaints, right? That's what it's about.
We could do what Orangeville does, put all the onus for granting exemptions or not, just making it a staff function, leave council out of it.
Yeah, what would you guys do?
Would you like that?
You did recommend,
I know.
He's given the report.
Anyways, I think we're going to call the question before we get too silly here. So we have a motion on the floor to... Yes, Elaine?
Just one question. Did they submit the $500 fee to process this application?
Yes, they have, Your Worship. The fee was paid and paid in advance.
Right.
And I'm not sure we have a mover and seconder yet on this motion.
We don't actually have a written motion on it, but...
Oh, I do have one.
Oh, you do? Okay, go ahead.
Here, you should have one in your package, but Your Worship, I can read it out otherwise.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, that we approve the issuance of a noise exemption permit pursuant to Bylaw 2026-8, noise bylaw, to Amrit Niger to hold a wedding on August 14, 2026 at 8 Mitchell Crescent, and that the permit shall be conditional on all terms and conditions in the permit, including but not limited to the hours indicated in the application, and provide the town with a phone number for the on-site event organizer who will be responsible to make any adjustments to the sound levels as directed by Mono's bylaw enforcement officer.
And my
Can I ask
apologies, I do have it.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If we turn the application down, does he get his money back?
No, he does not. The fee is for the, actually, I should review the noise bylaw just to confirm that, whether we refund the application fee if it's denied. I don't recall off the top of my head.
He says no speakers. He says no amplified sound, which I know isn't the issue, but he says no speakers.
I need a mover and a seconder.
All right, pardon me. I'll move it just to discuss it.
Move it, and Ralph seconds it.
Right, I mean, if all of everything that we did, this is really a case of, as opposed to other ones who have come and said, we've done it all before, and here we are, and we don't want to pay and everything. Here's a person who's really following, really telling us that it's an old-fashioned party, sounds like.
Yeah.
In which case, yeah.
I'd comment.
Yep.
Yeah, here's a guy who's playing by the rules. He wants to have a wedding on his own property. I mean, in times gone by, that'd be an absolute given. You could have that on your property, no matter how large it was. And he's modifying things by not having any amplified sound. He's trying to do his best to make it, reusable and still have a good time with the party. I think, this is the kind of thing that we should have in our community, and I support it very strongly.
Okay. Any further comments? Okay, all those in favor?
I'm going to hide my head and vote for it.
Those opposed? Matter of principle, I wish him well, and I hope he has a great wedding, but he doesn't need a permit to make noise. Thank you, and that motion carries. Now we are at...
He said he doesn't need a permit.
I say, I don't think he needs a permit.
Yeah.
I don't think he needs a permit. Anyways, Schedule A. I have a motion to adopt Schedule A, moved by Councillor Davey, seconded by Councillor Capes. Anything on Schedule A that anyone wants to speak to? Elaine?
I just did want to support the motion from Smith Falls. I think we're all feeling the pain of increased fire services, and the provincial government wants to increase their demands on us, and so maybe they should help us pay for it. So I would like just a general support of that motion. And also, so that was number 9. And also, number 8, the Caledon tick-borne disease motion. Again, like I think finally, after years and years and years and years, health is starting to consider that ticks and Lyme disease are a real thing. And so I think anything we can do to support people getting support and treatment for Lyme disease as per that motion, I would like to support that.
So, Fred, can you give us a wording, a sort of general sense of support for those two matters?
I will do my best, Your Worship. So on the tick-borne diseases, if I may suggest that Council for the Town of Mono supports and endorses the Town of Caledon's resolution calling on the province to increase funding and support for local public health units to address tick-borne disease prevention.
Okay.
Thank you. Beautiful.
And that's moved by Councillor Capes and seconded by Ralph. Any opposition to that? That motion carries. And the second matter, and then Ralph.
No,
Oh,
I'm sorry. I thought you said Ralph. Again,
oh,
forget that.
okay. So we have the fire service resolution to support.
So again, if council wishes to consider that Council for the Town of Mono supports and endorses the Town of Smith Falls resolution calling upon the province to transition the current practices of competitive provincial fire service grant programs to a permanent, stable, and predictable, non-competitive provincial funding program that supports municipalities in meeting provincially legislated fire protection requirements.
Excellent. And Councillor Capes would like to move that, and Deputy Mayor Nix would like to second. Any further discussion? Any opposed? That motion carries. Elaine, anything further on Schedule A?
No, Your Worship, Fred will be happy to know he doesn't have to make up any more motions for me, so thank you.
Ralph, did you have your hand up?
Thank you,
on
Fred.
Schedule A?
No,
Oh,
I
okay.
was supportive
Okay.
of the tick-borne.
Melinda? Yeah.
Yeah, the tick-borne one, the environmental management is really what we need to do, but I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole because I don't think everybody in Mono would endorse that really. Spraying for ticks. Anyway, the one I wanted to mention was the Lynn Gibson Park damage, which is very unfortunate, but thank you to our staff, Mr. Mikowski, who was able to really make it not look too badly, but you know how pictures are, they never really show the two-dimensional. I mean, this was a very expensive rubber for the safety of our children, and somebody drove clearly a motorized vehicle on it and damaged it. So because a regular e-bike, which pedal assisted, isn't going to do that. Something with a throttle, which we're getting more and more of them, and they're illegal, but people are buying them. Illegal to be on the road, not illegal to be sold, but illegal to be, and in order to get into our Lynn Gibson Park, you had to drive on a road to get there. Mm-hmm. The electric motorcycles, right? The electric dirt bikes, which are a great boon with respect to no longer having the big noise, but they still do the same thing with respect to big knobby tires on surfaces. So this was very disappointing, and I hope whoever parent bought the bike knows what their kid did.
Okay. Anything else on Schedule A? I think we're good there. Reports of staff? Oh, Fred?
Yeah, Your Worship, if we could just have a motion to accept Schedule A.
Okay, motion to accept Schedule A, moved by Councillor Cape, seconded by Councillor Mangtalo. Any opposition? Seeing none, motion passes. Reports of staff, anything less?
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. I do have one item to report. I'm not sure if council is aware or not, if I've informed you. Our accounting clerk, payroll administrator is retiring, Christine Tovey. We're having a staff lunch for her in the office this Thursday, and wish her a safe ride into the sunset. We do have a replacement. It was an internal hiring. It's Lisa. And moving forward, Mike and I will be doing a recruitment process to replace the position that Lisa had.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Matt?
Just, Les, retiring is not necessarily going into the sunset, okay?
She's going west, right? She's going west, right?
And it's brighter out there. It is sunnier, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Thanks, Mayor Krellman. Just a few things. Construction progress status, Bridge 5 is going really well. They've got the east footing poured, and they're looking to excavate this week for the west footing, and hoping to place that footing either late this week or early next. So that's working out well. Mono Am Town Line, they've removed all the shoulders, and we've replaced all the cross culverts, and they're hoping to pulverize early next week. So that's progressing well. EA/grant update. We have put a package together for the province and submitted a scope change application for the grant that we received, in addition to a bunch of other supporting documents. So we're hoping to hear back from the province in the coming weeks, so we could continue with the progress on the Klondike wells and the items that were talked about at last council meeting. Until then, the project's on hold.
Thank you.
So the Fieldstone wastewater treatment plant, just a brief update. The operating authority through the developer Brookfield has requested for additional sludge removal on Saturday mornings to improve operations and having a bit more stable influent and effluent on Monday mornings, because it tends to spike because there's been no sludge removals on the weekends. So they are requesting a couple loads on Saturday mornings. I have yet to kind of give them the go-ahead for that until we have received some of the items that we had asked for at the letter that council received at the April 14th meeting through Carly at Burnside. One of the requests that we did have on that letter to Brookfield and their operating authority was this additional sampling, so we could help guide us in assessing the future improvements to that and optimization of that plant. We have received that. It's been since sent on to the town engineers for that. I'm still waiting on an approach for the failed RBC2. So it still has not been repaired, and I'm waiting for an update on that before we could even entertain potentially more pump outs on Saturday mornings. The pump outs will be expected probably first thing in the morning Saturdays, just to kind of smooth out that pumping on Mondays, because like I said, it's been spiking up a little bit. So yeah, that's all I have to report.
And how about the communications program that the ministry wanted Brookfield to do? And I say that very deliberately because my understanding was they wanted Brookfield to do it directly with the residents and not use us as an intermediary, although we're happy to communicate with the residents.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Mayor Krellman. So it was both the communications plan and the odor mitigation plan were sent to the ministry, prepared and sent to the ministry, and they accepted it, and they were very happy with the plans that were submitted. I did review them before they were submitted to the ministry. I prefer they come in through us so we could have control, so we're not missing anything. We could kind of extend that information on to Brookfield. In the past few weeks, we've only received one odor complaint, and it seems that the messaging is out there and to the satisfactory. The ministry was happy with that. So,
thank you. Mike?
So just to further on that, so one of the recommendations from the ministry was the biofilter upgrade, for lack of better words. So that was one of the mitigation factors on odor right away.
in the hatch.
And the hatch, some sealing off. So hopefully hopefully that's part and parcel of the odor issue. Just to continue on that, with the replacement of RBC number 2, I met with the VP of Land Developments for Brookfield. John, you'll remember, he visited from Alberta and stressed the importance of getting this back up and running in its natural state, which is what the subdivision agreement required, and then any modifications moving forward. If we could start to expedite this, is at the forefront. So thanks.
And this is, okay, a redundant question, but we're no closer to taking ownership of that plant until all these problems are solved. I just wanted to ask that so the public understands where we stand. We do not own that plant, and we're not going to own it until all these problems are solved.
Matt will correct me. Matt will correct me if I'm wrong on the wording, but generally there's within the subdivision agreement there's preliminary acceptance, and then there's a 2-year maintenance period. We haven't even done step 1. We haven't preliminarily accepted it, and the town will be very cautious on. Well, there's some upgrades and changes that need to happen to meet their requirements, and that's part and parcel of it. So.
And for clarification, the town will never own it. The residents will own it.
No.
The
Town will
town owns the land underneath.
Well, the
it.
land, but
We own the land underneath it right now, but the town, it will be similar to Cardinal Woods pump house for water. We will own the structure, and we will
okay.
manage it through asset management, and through the rate study, we will collect funds to run it and replace it, and that'll be borne by the 344 users.
Right, so it's the funds for the maintenance of it are not residents at large, it's the users.
It's
right?
a local service. It's a local service to the Fieldstone development. Yes, correct. Similar to water.
Okay.
Which is a local service.
So back in order. Jessica, do you have anything to report?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Fred?
Well, I would like to formally welcome Ms. Kennedy to the clerk's office. As council knows, she started a week ago, and she will be assuming the clerk's roles. Down the road, we'll be bringing a bylaw to appoint her as clerk. Oh, sorry.
Do it again, please.
I would like to formally welcome Ms. Kennedy to the town and to the clerk's division. She started a week ago and will be taking over as clerk next month. I'll be bringing a bylaw to council to have her appointed as the clerk. On another subject, CVC will be conducting some pesticide spraying at Monora Park on July 27th to the 30th, and again on August 24th to the 27th. They'll be putting signage up in advance of the spraying. It'll be weather contingent. And then they'll be on site again on August 26th to address some phragmites in the pond area. And all of that information will be promoted through our communication channels.
And this is such a hard thing to explain to residents who, confuse us with the CBC, think that we're doing it, and then you say, oh no, it's the Conservation Authority. They can't quite believe that the Conservation Authority is using herbicidal sprays. But they are. I mean, they have to, in the view of many.
Well, I'm sure the one they're using is this, it's this one that's been approved for use near water. I can't remember the name of it. I'm almost 100% sure they wouldn't use Roundup.
No.
If I know the CVC, they'll provide us with some community outreach or residential outreach. They're generally pretty good.
Good.
The notice and the signs for spraying will also contain the chemical name, and if a little bit of research, I think you'll find out it's the in-water. Matt knows more about the names, but it'll be the in-water phragmites treatment, especially around the pond.
Elaine?
I'm not sure I heard, what are they spraying for?
There's a willow tree, an invasive willow tree, and then I assume eventually for the Phragmites, they're going to spray it too.
Pesticide is not, that's different.
The pesticide is Habitat Aqua, is what they use in the wet areas.
So what are they spraying for, though?
Phragmites.
Just those weeds and those Phragmites?
And a certain willow that they say is invasive. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, Your Worship, the primary spraying is for invasive species of willow. And then in
Okay.
addition, on the 26th is the Phragmites around the pond.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else, Fred? Mike?
Just quick, Your Worship. So I sent council an email with respect to Aragon Properties, with respect to a community outreach. The mayor and I met with the developer a couple weeks ago. He believed that he wanted to put a new idea for the development of that land in front of the Watermark community, because he felt them to be a very vocal group with respect to how the shape and feel of that land should be developed. But it was John and I were very clear that, well, John couldn't speak for council, and neither could I. So John and I were very clear that this was his own doing, and council would not be involved at it. And I understand that outreach went on at the community center, and I haven't heard anything about it, but it is something I think that we'll start to see and expect a new application for that land.
Yep, go ahead.
Yes, I got your email, and thank you for that. My concern is, I mean, when he came in with an application for 220 condo units and a communal sewage treatment plant, we fought him on that issue, and we basically won. Whatever his new plan is going to be, my assumption is we're still going to have a communal sewage treatment plant. And if we fought it the last time, I guess I'm asking this as a question. Shouldn't we fight it again? Because I don't think we want another communal sewage. I know the rules have changed, but maybe that's the problem. Maybe we can't win this time, but.
I think the answer to that is we cannot answer that until we have an application in front of us. And the last time we went to the OLT, he didn't let us go through I believe he took us to the OLT prior to council having the ability to make a decision.
Yeah.
So you know, from a CAO or from the planning department's opinion, he needs to let the process run, and satisfy our engineers and work towards and hear from council, hear from the public, go through this entire process to have it run. We were fighting municipal consent. We were fighting because there was no chance of success, because there was no interest. There would be no interest of municipal consent. So, and the rules have changed on that. And I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around what public utility means and so forth. It's very unclear.
Anyways, I think it's a good thing that he's reached out on his own initiative to the group of residents who had the greatest degree of concern over the proposal, and he's perfectly free to come back with an alternative plan.
Yep.
But the game has changed in that municipal things it's printed that things can go ahead without municipal agreement, right?
Like I say, there's some legal wording in there that's hard to understand what a public utility is with respect to running a wastewater treatment plant and or water system, and whether at the end of the day, somebody will need to backstop this should there be a failure, and whether that falls under the approval of the province. Well, the province won't be backstopping it. But the public utility that has, to the best of my knowledge, has not been created yet. They're just non-existent, right? So
Well, right, but I mean, I thought that, and you're right, I mean, it's all up in the air, I suppose, except that it's been passed and had royal assent and all that about the fact that private companies can be the utility. So there aren't any private companies yet, so that might make it take longer to happen, but it, in an effort to make it so that municipalities can't say no. And yet, this morning's water discussion is it's all part and parcel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Mike, is that it?
That's it, thank you.
Okay. So, notices of motion, any notices of motion? Elaine?
You're going to have council's reports too?
Oh, council's reports, sorry. I am really trying to rush this meeting. I was informally given some deadlines by multiple councillors, so Melinda.
I have nothing actually to report. Things are all just going along. Super. Things are going, yes, as per Councillor Mangtolo, things are super.
Ralph?
Yes, we've had a very good week at the pollinator garden, and it's partly because of the involvement of the staff and also the volunteers. We actually decided to put the pergola up in a week, and that occurred. On Sunday, we did a survey. On Monday, we drilled the holes. It was the town drilled the holes. We poured the concrete bases. On Tuesday and Wednesday, we completed the construction of the arches at my farm property. On Thursday, we transported them to the pollinator garden. On Friday, we erected the whole thing. And I must say, it was really pleasant, Matt, I'd have to say, working with your staff both times, both on Monday and on Friday, and things went extremely well. All we have to do now is put a base on it, create the plaque, which will be a combination of the input of the family, the town, and the council, and it'll say the things that were appropriate about Laura Ryan, and to create a bench for it. So we're going to do the base on Wednesday, and the other stuff will be done as quickly as possible.
Looks terrific.
I have to really compliment the town staff on it, and I also have to thank Matt, because Matt and others provided wood, which is of a value of about $1,000 towards this project.
Thank you. Fred?
Well, just one very brief thing. I had a Credit Valley board meeting on Friday. It was too late to get my report into this agenda package. It'll be in Schedule A of the August 25th meeting. But the one exciting thing is, of the three things I report in that report, is Benham, who was here this morning, is also in charge of a group at Credit Valley that did some modeling, some future modeling as to what's going to happen to the watershed in the next, but between now and 2051. And that is very interesting stuff. I've sent John a copy of my report, but peak stream flows are going to be increased by, I forget the number, 40%. I mean, it's quite, I was going to use the word scary. Stream temperatures are going to go up. He said, when I went and said goodbye to him, that if council wanted a staff presentation from Credit Valley on that subject, they'd be willing to come back. So, Mike, or I don't know what our agendas look like for the fall, but we have that offer from Credit Valley if we want them to come back and do a presentation simply on what their models show is going to happen to our watershed over the next 30 years.
Okay. Elaine?
Thank you. So as Mike referred to, we had a great meeting last night with the PenHack. And we had a really good conversation about the planning report that was prepared by Deborah Alexander on, large homes. And I mean, that's a 20-page document. And we had a good summary from her, and then we had a good conversation. The committee, great committee members, they had great questions. And so that will be coming back to council at the next meeting, I hope, with some recommendation from from the committee. And if you wish, I can give you my notice of motion now.
It's up to you. I mean, it can be submitted in sufficient time to appear on the next agenda, or?
Well, I just want to give you a notice of motion that we need to have a policy to address the use of motorized scooters and bikes. I've had, I think we all saw the complaint from a resident about kids driving around up and down, and no helmets on, and rude to the gate attendants in the conservation area, and then this whole incident with the Gibson Park. So I've been told that Orangeville and Shelburne opted out of a provincial pilot program. I'm not sure if I knew about this provincial pilot program, but I think we need to have a policy around the use regarding these e-vehicles.
Okay. So we'll look forward to that. I have nothing to report. So moving right along to the in-camera motion, that council move into a closed meeting pursuant to Section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended at 11:47 a.m. for number 1, Cedar Springs Trailer Park, Section 239, subsection 2, subsection E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local boards. And second, Full Throttle OLT appeal, Section 239, subsection 2, subsection E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Do I have a mover for that? Melinda moves that. Elaine seconds it. Any opposition? Seeing none, that motion carries and we go in camera.
I'll be right back.
We are back live.
Thank you. I have a motion that we rise from an in-camera session at
12:15.
12:16 PM and direct staff, town staff, and the town solicitor to proceed accordingly. Do I have a mover for that? Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Capes. Any opposition? Seeing none, motion passes. Another motion that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the town of Mono in session 12-2026 held on the 14th of July 2026, that it be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Councillor Davey moves, seconded by Councillor Manctilo. Any opposition? Seeing none, passes. Final motion that we adjourn this meeting at 12:17 PM. Moved by Councillor Davey, seconded by Councillor Capes. Any opposition? Motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, Elaine.
Bye-bye.